So yesterday I started day 1 of cycle 3 of gemcitabine only, but it's been quite a wild ride just to get to this point. Hi everyone, hope everyone of course is doing well. I apologize, it's been a little while since I've done an update, and I did promise you an update at once I started this new round of chemo, the gemcitabine only. But it's been a bit of a ride, a little more so than what most people go through with just gemcitabine. This was supposed to be fairly easy, but for me, it hasn't been all that easy. So it started out after my first infusion. Everything seemed to go well. I tolerated the infusion well, of course, and that all worked out well. But what I noticed after that first infusion, within a couple days, I started to get a rash, and it actually turned out to be a full body, full on burning, itching rash, pretty much covering about 90% of my body. If you're on gemcitabine and Taxidor, it's not unusual to get rashes, and they control that with steroids. It's unusual to get it with just gemcitabine. It only affects about 1% of people with just gemcitabine. I happen to be in that 1%. So we skipped the second infusion, the day 8 infusion of gemcitabine, and they had put me on steroids to control the rash. So we were on a heavy dose of steroids, got rid of the rash. That worked well. And then I had that second week off to recover, because it took about a week and a half to get rid of the rash. But during that time, one night I had excruciating back pain, excruciating, doubled over in pain, back pain. That ended me up in the ER. And they took me back, eventually gave me a shot of morphine, which took care of the pain. They did a CT and could not find anything that would cause the back pain. Possibly something wrong with my right kidney, but this is something that's shown up since I started getting scans. I do have a cyst in my kidney. Hasn't changed at all, though. It's not a kidney stone. At least they're not calling it that at this point. It's not really the right place for a kidney stone, but it's unchanged. It's just there. So really, they don't know what caused the severe back pain. I didn't need any more pain medication after that first injection. What they did find, though, is, again, they did a CT, and they did find more lesions on my liver. So I have more reoccurrence on my liver. This would be the third time it's been on my liver, in addition to the tumors that are in my lungs. So obviously, that prompted some more conversations with my sarcoma specialist at Northwestern, and we decided that there really would be no change in treatment even with these new tumors on the liver, that the treatment plan is still the same. We need to get these growths under control before we can do any kind of surgery, if that's even necessary, once we move forward. I point blank said, what is our goal here? And he pretty much said that from now on, you're pretty much going to be living with chronic disease. What that tells me is that there's a very good chance that I will never get to see the words NED on my scans again, that I will always have some kind of disease in my body. I hope that's not true. That's not necessarily the case. Again, hoping that's not true, that we can either eradicate it with the chemo or with chemo and surgery, or chemo and radiation, whatever it takes to finally get rid of it completely. Once again, because I would really like to see NED on some scans. But there's a possibility that won't be the case. And I do have to say that kind of threw me for a loop. Because if I'm not NED, there will be no flying left in my future. And that's a loss, and a very sad loss. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be around for a long time, because I still plan on being around for a very long time. And that was the goal that he said, is that we will be periods of chemo and then hopefully a lot longer period without chemo. And that we have stable disease and we're just plugging along. I can live with that. If the chemo isn't bad, where I'm just miserably ill for months and months and then only have a couple months of feeling good, that's probably not going to be worth it. That's not a very good quality of life. But if I can have more time feeling good than feeling bad, then it's worth it. And we keep fighting, right? So there is a positive on here. I see myself actually as beating this thing. I would really love to become famous by being the guy where these things go away and there's no explanation for it, and people want to know more about it, and I can maybe help other people through whatever it was that happened. That would be really cool, to become famous for the guy that got rid of the disease and nobody knows why or how that happened. But I'd be willing to offer myself up as a study case to have others have that same experience. That would be very cool. So we're continuing on with this new regimen of the gemcitabine now. Tony and I will be going on vacation, and then when we come back, we'll add in the Taxotere with that. So some changes with that, though, have happened also, because I then did day 1 of cycle 2, and this time we pre-treated the day before, the day of, and the day after with steroids, and that controlled that major rash. However, after that, those 3 days of steroids, about 4 days later, I started getting a breakout of my skin. Not the rash that came before, a different kind of rash, not anything that is unbearable, didn't itch or anything, just kind of looked a little ugly. But clearly my body is still trying to fight this drug. We are hopeful that this also means that it's doing some good on the tumors. So we continue on with that. So what we're doing to change it up a little bit is, not only will I do the steroids the day before, day of, and day after, we will then do a smaller dose for 2 more days to wean me off the steroid, and hopefully that will control these other breakouts. The other change has been we lowered the dose a bit. And the reason being is because I did have 2 doses of gemcitabine, the day 1 and the day 8. But I had some very serious, well, I shouldn't say serious, not uncommon side effects. I immediately get constipated after a dose of gemcitabine. And it's actually the anti-nausea that does that, not the gemcitabine. The constipation this time, though, was quite bad. It lasted for several days. Even though I do all the prep, I do Marilax and then stool softeners and other things, and it actually took a fairly heavy-duty laxative to break that up. But once that got broken up, it then kicked in my IBS into massive diarrhea mode for several days, with major cramping and uncomfortableness. Needless to say, I was quite miserable for several days. They finally put me on a drug for the IBS to take care of the cramping, so that is now not so much an issue. And we will take care of if diarrhea comes back with Imodium, we'll control that with Imodium and other things, and hopefully keep that under control. so far with the infusion yesterday. Yes, I'm constipated, but we're going to try some things to mitigate this sooner than later. So we also made some changes to our plans for our vacation because of these side effects. We realized that taking the long drive out there to Zion National Park from Chicago, the drive, just probably would not be in our best interest, especially if I wasn't feeling good and had to stop all the time. So we've made some minor changes. We are not going to fly. We're going to fly to Vegas, and Zion National Park is just a 2.5-hour drive from there. So we will drive to the park. We'll be able to spend a little bit more time in the park now because of that. And we will then drive back to Vegas and spend 2 nights in Vegas, where I get to have some fun and good meals and that kind of stuff. So it's actually kind of a bonus that we're getting to do that. My doctors are working with me to make sure that this is a good trip. I am not going to get my day 8 infusion of chemo next week, which is right before we leave for vacation, so that I feel as good as possible for this trip. As my doctor puts it, quality of life is extremely important, and we are going to be hitting me hard once I get back, once we add in the Taxotere, assuming that we need to. There is a possibility, I'm getting scanned once we get back, that if those scans are showing that the gemcitabine alone is having an effect, we might not add in the Taxotere, which would be a good thing. But we'll have to wait and see once we get back from the trip. But that's where we are right now. Things are looking good. I'm feeling pretty good. Just really tired. Didn't realize gemcitabine would make me as tired as I am, but it does fatigue me quite a bit. But that's okay. I'll take that. And when we get back, we will see what happens next. I am planning on doing some videoing, hopefully. I'll do some videoing while we're on vacation, and maybe I'll do a vlog on, just having a good time instead of me talking about what's been going on. So I think I'll end on that note. I hope, again, everyone is doing well, and that you all are on your journey doing great things and moving forward. Each and every one of you with this disease inspires me every single day, and you inspire me to keep fighting and keep moving. So thank you for that. Have a great day, and thank you for watching.